Imagine for a second you're walking down a city street. You probably just assume you're being recorded somewhere, right? But what if it was more than that? What if every single move you made was being analyzed? Well, today we're going to take a walk through what it's really like to live in one of the most surveilled cities on Earth.
There's a camera right here. And yep, another one over there. They're literally everywhere, just woven into the background of the city.
Okay, so let's get into it. The very first thing you notice is once you actually start looking for them, you realize you can't stop seeing them. They're on every corner. And what's really interesting is how they hide in plain sight. I mean, sure, you've got the obvious ones on poles and traffic lights, but then your eyes adjust and you start to see these little black domes or that dark glass on a storefront or these tiny boxes on apartment buildings that you would have just walked past a million times before.
And the sheer density of it all, it's kind of staggering. We're not just talking about big, busy public squares. In some of these places, we're talking about one camera for just a handful of people. It's this constant, ever-present eye. So here's the thing that changes absolutely everything. These cameras aren't just sitting there passively recording footage in case something happens. No, they are actively watching, in real time, analyzing how you behave.
So who's doing all this watching? You might picture a room full of security guards staring at a wall of screens, but that's not it at all. It's software. These are invisible, automated systems designed to notice everything. The tech that powers this whole thing is called computer vision. Really, it's just a type of AI that teaches computers to see and understand the world kind of like we do, but on a massive, inhuman scale. It lets them spot tiny patterns in video that you or I would never, ever catch. And what kind of patterns is it looking for? Well, it's incredibly subtle stuff. The software is tracking things like how long you stand still, or if your walk is just a little bit different from the crowd around you. It notices if you suddenly change direction, or even if you just stop in a spot where people don't normally stop. It's all about finding deviations from the norm. So this is basically how it all works. First, you've got the data collection, just tons of raw video from all those cameras. Then, the algorithms get to work detecting all those little behavioral patterns we just talked about. And here's the key part. It uses those patterns to try and predict what might happen next. The goal isn't just to react, it's to get ahead of things. And that leads to this really stark reality. To get flagged by a system like this, you don't actually have to break any laws. You just have to be different. You just have to stand out from the crowd. Okay, so what does living under this kind of constant, invisible observation actually do to people? I mean, how does it change the way we act over time? This comparison is just fascinating. On the left, you've got your typical spontaneous city. People hang out, they gather, their movements are kind of random. But in the observed city, on the right, people's behavior starts to become more uniform. They tend to walk faster, they don't really linger, and their movements become much more purposeful. Everything and everyone becomes more predictable. And here's the truly wild part of it all. There aren't any signs telling people how they should act. There are no guards on the street enforcing these new unspoken rules. It's all a subconscious process. People just adapt to the feeling that they're being watched. Now, you're probably thinking this sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? A total dystopia. But for the people who actually live there, the real power of the system is that it all feels completely ordinary. A normal day just looks, well, normal. You see people out shopping, they're commuting to work, meeting up with friends. You see kids going to school, couples grabbing dinner. Everyone is just scrolling on their phone. All the familiar rhythms of modern life are still there. There's actually a term for this phenomenon. It's called behavioral normalization. It's the psychological process where a new constant thing in your environment, in this case, surveillance, becomes so routine that it just fades into the background. You stop even noticing it, let alone questioning it. It's just part of the scenery. So what's the trade-off? What's the real price you pay for all of this predictability? Well, it really comes down to a fundamental choice between safety on one hand and spontaneity on the other. This chart lays it all out perfectly. Look, on one side, people who support these systems will point to very real gains. Crime rates go down, emergency response gets faster, and there's a general sense of order and cleanliness. But on the other side, something is lost. That sense of spontaneity, of randomness, and even certain types of creative expression or protest, they all start to fade away.
not because they're explicitly banned, but simply because they stand out too much from the norm. This quote really gets to the absolute core logic of the whole system. The number one goal is safety, and to get that safety, you need predictability. And how do you get predictability? You get it when everyone starts acting in more or less the same expected way. And this, right here, is why it's so widely accepted. For the vast majority of people living in this system, the feeling isn't that they're being controlled, the feeling is that they're being protected. And when your day-to-day life feels safe and secure, you're a lot less likely to question the invisible systems that are making it all happen. Which brings us to the final and, I think, most crucial question of all. This isn't really about whether it's good or bad. It's about a threshold. At what point does a system that was designed to protect a society cross a line and start to fundamentally shape it? And that's the thought I want to leave you with.